Harry Fisher, welcome. I'm really glad to talk to you today. When I heard that you're a paramedic and you were a paramedic during pandemic, I was really curious to talk to you because you were in the front lines, and I just wanted to hear your thoughts about how things went during COVID. And before we get into that, like, can you talk about how did you end up with this profession? And I think you also have a military background, right?
Yep. 1997 is whenever I first became an EMT, and I inevitably joined the military. I joined the Army, and then after the Army, went to the Air Force. I was a medic in both branches. Since then, I've been a paramedic on, street paramedic, ambulance paramedic. Been in ERs, ICUs. I've ran the gambit. I've been throughout the medical field working as a EMT or paramedic. Over here, EMTs. When you first start out, you become an EMT and you can work your way up through school to become a paramedic. I became a paramedic in 2012-ish. I've been working as a paramedic ever since. How I,
And
why I started, I was just because I wanted to help people, but it's, I don't know, the medical industrial complex has gotten pretty jaded. It's made me pretty jaded, especially since COVID. COVID was a rock to my faith in our medical system.
I was really
Rock to me.
curious, what was your view on the medical system before COVID? I mean, you were in it, you were working in the medical system. What did you think about it before everything happened?
Bef- Before everything happened, I knew there was corruption. I mean, everyone in America knows that there's corruption. It's pretty obvious, and people are aware that there's corrupt people in the world and in our country. That said, if you don't mind, I'm gonna walk over to this bridge. And that said, we didn't know how corrupt it was. We weren't aware of how many people were actually trying to harm our nation, trying to harm the world. COVID, with all the rules and regulations and mandates, it brought to light how bad it truly was. From distancing that didn't work and we knew wasn't going to work, to all the masking when we knew cloth masks weren't going to work. Watching Fauci on stage lie, say at one point he was like masks don't work, and then a few days later he was like mask up, they work. We were just getting to see how um, how deep, how deeply entrenched corruption really is. And then when they mandated poison, because by the time they mandated it, people like me had already seen death caused by the shots. Like I'd already done CPR on people that took the shot and died. I'd already seen young strokes, young heart attacks. So when they mandated it on me and others, it was just a blow to our faith in the medical industry. That it killed our faith in the medical industry. It really did. It also killed our faith in any political person at the time that we thought actually had our back, because they weren't having our backs. They were just letting them take our jobs away from us if we didn't play Russian roulette. And I, for one, I wasn't going to play Russian roulette to keep a job. So it harmed us a lot. It was really, really bad. I mean, imagine, are you in the medical field?
No, I'm not.
Okay, imagine I don't well you're over in where are you right now? You said Germany?
Yes.
Okay, they mandated the shots in Germany, didn't they? They made it to where everyone had to take it or to have a job or what?
Um, in hospitals? I
Yes,
don't know.
especially in hospitals.
I don't think so. I don't think they were forced. No, I don't think
Okay,
so.
so they could keep their jobs over there if they didn't take the shot. It's great if they could, because over here, if you were in the medical field, they said take this or you can't work. So imagine working through COVID, living through all of that, helping people, and then the bulk of COVID's over with, and then they say now we're going to mandate this shot, and a lot of us had already seen it kill people. So you take this thing that's already killed people in front of you, or you can't work and you still have to pay taxes. That's what my nation did to me. while they made fun of me and others like me on national TV, while the Jimmy Kimmels of the world literally said, "Shut up and die, Wheezy, if you don't take your shot." So they demonized us, mocked us, took our jobs away, and on top of it, they said, "Hey, you can't work because you're choosing to not take this danger. You're choosing not to play Russian roulette, but you still have to pay us taxes." Needless to say, a lot of us were pissed off. A lot of us were angry. Still are. So I truly believe that people need to wake up to how bad it got. And I'm glad that President Trump and Kennedy are going after pharmaceutical companies right now. As we speak, they're waging war on corruption in our pharmaceutical industry. It's just a lot of us wish that it would be a lot more. Right now, it feels a little too late because there's so many kids with autism. I have a child with autism. They did take our jobs away. No one's in jail for all of that. So a lot of us feel like it's too little, too late. But I still have a lot in me that has hope that for the future, if they keep doing these incremental changes, at, at least it'll save some lives. So I'm happy that they're at least doing something.
So when the pandemic started, March 2020, how did you how, when did you realize that things were going wrong? What were the red flags at the time?
Mm, well, the weird distancing thing didn't make any sense.
But like it
Them saying that hospitals were full whenever they weren't full didn't make any sense because the TV was like, the hospitals are so full. During COVID, they weren't, especially the children's hospital. The children's hospitals were empty. Literally, because I was still working, at the time I was working a big city, uh, taking patients to the children's hospital, which was the main children's hospital of that city, and it was crickets in there. I mean, you could hear a pin drop. So it wasn't the hospitals weren't full. And so that was at odds completely with what the news was telling us and what was actually happening on the ground. So that was a big, red flag. Why is the news trying to freak everybody out that all the hospitals are full when I'm walking into these hospitals and they're not full? Our hospitals didn't get full. We didn't start getting our butts kicked until they rolled out the COVID-19 shot. They rolled out the COVID-19 shots and then they started loosening their regulations on schools and everything like that. People started venturing out again, and we started getting just hammered. Like we had wait times for ERs at that point in time that I would have figured would have been happening during COVID based on the way that they were screaming at us on the news. So that was the biggest contrast is during COVID, hospitals empty, ambulance services not super busy. At the end of COVID, when the shots came out, and to now, busy. Like we're busier now, right now, than we were during COVID. Fact.
Interesting. So what did you think about the how COVID patients were like dying in hospitals? They were saying that they're very severe illness. They were like what is the word they were using? Ventilating the patients. So have you seen any of that?
Yeah. I was working in New York City ICU and ER at the time. I would go each shift they would so they wouldn't burn us out. The paramedics like me they were using in New York City. I was working Lower Manhattan Presbyterian Hospital, and I was doing ICU and ER at the time because they would each shift they would send me to the ICU one shift, send me to the ER so they wouldn't burn us out because people were dying. They were venting them, putting them on a ventilator, intubating them, ventilating them, and they would die. I never saw anybody come off the tube. I heard stories about one miracle person that did, but I never actually got to see anybody come off the tube that was alive. They all died. Um, my
But what
opinion.
I guess I'm really
Go ahead.
curious because I hear from other doctors where they say ventilation was the wrong thing to do, that they were not supposed to use that. But why do you think they use this method? Was this method a common method to use before? Were they patients were so bad that they had to be? they what was calling, because I'm not in a medical field, so I don't understand how things work. So I'm really curious, like, why
Try
were
to
they doing that?
I'll try to break it down in layman's terms. We had patient during COVID. COVID brought with it something called happy hypoxia. We were calling it happy hypoxia. Well, a
Okay.
hypoxic patient is someone who's lacking oxygen. Before COVID, a hypoxic patient, if they're severely hypoxic, if they're severely lacking oxygen, they turn blue. Imagine someone who's not able to breathe. Now
Yeah.
picture in your head what they look like. They look like they're,
Yeah.
working to breathe, hurting, they're turning blue, they're sweaty a lot of the diaphragm, they're sweating, they look like they're about to crump. They look really sick.
Yeah.
Well, patients that typically oxygen saturation, that little device they put on your finger when you go into the hospital that reads how much oxygen's uh, in your blood. Basically, patients were satting extremely low, like lower than we've ever seen before. I've been doing this since '97, and I have never seen patients sat this kind of low. I'm talking about 40s and 50% type low. If someone's like you're right now, you're sitting there, you look normal, you look fine. You're probably satting 95 to 100%. I would say you're probably satting 98 to 100%, but 95 to 100%. Your oxygen saturation is good. I'm talking to you right now. I'm not having any word dyspnea. I'm not having to stop in between breaths. That's word dyspnea. So I'm able to just talk. My sats are probably 95 to 100%. People were satting in the 40s and 50s and talking just like I am right now. Typically, what we've seen in my entire existence on this earth, if someone's satting in the 80s, they're not able to talk like I am right now. In the 80s, it's like a COPD patient, someone who's always on oxygen, and they're this is how they might talk in the
Yeah.
80s. Well, 40s and 50s, you're dead. You're dead. It makes no sense, biologically speaking, how someone can sat 40 and 50% and still talk like you and I are. So we were calling it happy hypoxia. If you look up on Google, you can actually Google this. They haven't censored it, strangely enough, but no one ever talks about it. So I guess they don't have to censor it. Google happy hypoxia during COVID-19, and it'll
Okay.
go over it. Wildly low oxygen saturations while patients were acting and looking normal. Well, what we did, because our protocols, and because when someone's satting that kind of sat and you do a blood gas on them and it says they're really that low, doctors will, whenever the patient gets anxious, because a lot of anxiety was coming with this, they will give them something for anxiety. The patient will start, the compensation that they were doing starts to wear off because we compensate. Their compensation will wear off a little bit. And inevitably, they would end up intubating these patients and giving them high flow oxygen through intubation, and the patient would die. Well, this is my opinion, and it's also some doctors that I know their opinion as well. We were over oxygenating the patients. We were ventilating them and over oxygenating them because they didn't require it at the time, because something inside their body was compensating perfectly well at extremely low levels. We were raising their levels to as high as we could get them. And if you look up what too much oxygen can do to the human body, it'll start to shut down your organs. You'll have kidney failure, liver failure. It's called oxygen toxicity or oxygen poisoning. So that's an opinion that we were poisoning people with oxygen. On top of that, we were also throwing remdesivir and other drugs at them. And these drugs can also cause organ failure. So we were ventilating patients that, if you looked at the patient, they didn't need to be ventilated. They were fine, they're acting fine. They might have some anxiety, and their sats are super low, but they're not turning blue. They're talking. Let them ride it out. And people were ventilating them on mass scale, and they would die. So that's why people are saying ventilators kill people, because it has to do with compensation. I'm not a medical doctor. I'm a paramedic, but I understand compensation, and I don't want to take over I don't want to take over what your body's trying to do normally unless I absolutely have to, because we compensate really well. Now, children, they'll compensate extremely well But what you have to watch out for is whenever they stop compensating, they crash fast. So children, thankfully, they weren't really affected by COVID. I didn't see any children with happy hypoxia, but I also wasn't getting calls on children. And we do the old school method a lot of times because our monitors don't work well on kids. We don't typically carry pediatric sensors in our ambulances. So we weren't actually looking at those. We were looking at the kid, and the kid's not blue, kids crying appropriately, kids acting normal, kids fine. Well, with adults, we were going off of the machine. The machine says 50%, the blood gas says 50%. So I truly believe a lot of children, a lot of babies probably were happy hypoxic. I never saw one because I never put a meter on one. But I'm sure they probably were. And the reason we didn't have a whole lot of pediatric deaths is because we weren't watching our monitors on those patients. We weren't one getting calls because the parents don't know anxiety in a baby. Most of our calls for people that were happy hypoxic were calls for anxiety. We would get there, they'd be like, I just feel anxious. I just feel something's off. Something's off. I don't know what it is. And they would be satting 50%. And I'd be like, yeah, something's off. Like, holy crap, how are you breathing? Like you're basically a zombie right now. It's really that hardcore weird. Like it's something that the media should have really been like. If they wanted to scare people, they should have been talking about this. The fact that they didn't tells me there's a smoking gun there, something that we've never seen before in the medical community ever happened, and no one talks about it.
What? So
There's
happy
a smoking gun there.
hypoxia. I mean, how often did you ex- had patients who
During the
had
heart of COVID,
no
during the heart
before?
of COVID, I would have never before COVID, never.
Really? So what
Yeah,
was so is happy hypoxia was happening because of COVID? Is it coronavirus caused or is it fear maybe because
it's
you were
whatever
watching
it's whatever COVID brought with it. I mean, it's because it never happened before COVID, and after COVID, and people started getting COVID, that happened. That was a thing. And I mean, it was what did one doctor in an ER? Because I actually asked her. I was like, Doctor, what is this? This is crazy. Like, how is this person satting 50% and still talking to us? I'm seeing this like a few times a week now. And he said, I don't, he said, what did he say? He said, I don't know, Harry. If anybody out there tells you they know what the hell this is, they're effing lying to you. And then he
Mhm.
actually said it's something COVID brought eventually. It came with COVID. I don't know what it was. We don't know what it was. They even call it the mystery of happy hypoxia during COVID-19 because it's unknown. We don't know. We've never seen it before. I've seen low sats before. I've seen some COPDers that typically live low, satting in the high 70s or mid 70s and still able to talk to me, but they still look sickly. I've never seen healthy people satting 50, percent, able to walk, talk, act normal, look normal. It's really that kind of crazy. Like it's really that kind of what is this? And we were talking, us medics, we're talking in our Facebook groups, calling them zombie patients. Hey, did you have a zombie patient today? Yeah, I had one. I had two. We didn't know what else to call it. Like people were actually walking around with deadly sats. They should be dead. Because I can do CPR on somebody and get them into the 90s. Doing good CPR with someone breathing, I can get your sats up into the 90s. These people will walk around at 50.
So right. And what was some of the real actual coronavirus symptoms? What I mean, because I hear some stories, well, they were not
Don't know.
actually any COVID
Don't know.
symptoms. They were
Like,
just like a
like
flu.
everything else was the flu. Everything else just seemed like the flu. That's the only thing that I actually, if you were happy hypoxic, I I would literally know that you had COVID. I considered happy hypoxic COVID because all the other stuff was runny nose, sniffles, sore throat. Some people would say they lost smell or lost taste. Um, but it all seemed pretty much flu-like symptoms, nothing crazy, nothing out of the ordinary. Um, just like the flu. That the happy hypoxia thing is the one thing that I didn't need a test. I didn't need you to, and I still don't believe in the test. I didn't need any of that. I just, if I saw you were sat 50% and talking to me normal, you had whatever this COVID was. That's, I mean, I wish I could explain better to people that aren't in the medical community how crazy it was. Like how I need to think of a better way to relate this to people. Because me in the medical field, I mean, yeah, when I first saw it, it took me a couple days to wrap my head around what I was seeing, what I was witnessing, because it was that kind of out of the norm strange. It was, I mean, it was that kind of zombie strange, like sci-fi movie. How is this even possible? How can this occur? And the only thing I came up with, because I just started studying it and what could do this, and it took me to like it took me into thinking about the Himalayas, how some people up way high can sat low, a lot lower than anybody else because they're accustomed to it. Their body is just used to not having the oxygen, the type of oxygen we have. So they can sat lower and they do better than we do. But those people still are only in like the high 80s. They're not like satting 50%. And then and then about that same time, they started talking about ivermectin. You remember the whole ivermectin and talking about ivermectin? Well, that's a parasite drug. And I was like, well, why is the left wing bashing a parasite drug? Why is the right wing talking about taking a parasite drug? And then I started looking at certain parasites, and certain avian parasites allow a bird to fly at a higher level and stay conscious. So certain parasites actually do help compensate the host body in certain levels of oxygen. So that made sense to me, but still don't know. Still, I mean, this is all me speculating based on what occurred, what I witnessed, and what I've researched that actually could cause this kind of low saturations. But still, was it a parasite? Was it just a bioweapon? Was it a bioweapon that utilized parasites? I don't know, but I know I haven't seen in a while now, long while now, years, any more happy hypoxic patients. I haven't I haven't seen any more. So it
Okay.
came during
Wow.
COVID, lasted a couple of years, and then the people either died or got better.
Okay. How about so when they announced that there are going to be vaccines, what did you think when you heard that they're developing vaccines?
I mean, I wasn't really, what did I think when I heard it? Well, I heard one that it was like the Operation Warp Speed, and I don't like anything that's fast when it comes to medicine. I don't like rush. I don't like fast. I don't like anything that I don't like being an experiment. And the first thing I started thinking of was there's an experiment taking place. But I wasn't adamantly like going to get online and just be against it or anything at the time. Um, that didn't happen until I didn't really change my mind and decide to go ahead and put my face on camera until I started seeing the death, until I actually started running the calls of people taking their shot and dying, until I started running the calls of all the bad that came with it. And finally, a doctor pulled me aside in an ER I was working in, and we had, just intubated our nurse manager who'd just taken her shot, and it was really bad. Like I'm talking about lots of people dying right after their shots within a week to 2 weeks to days. Um, and the doctor pulled me aside and said, "Harry, we're experiencing genocide. This is genocide." And at that point, I was angry enough that I went out to my ambulance bay and I put a camera up and I said, I'm a paramedic. I did CPR on a Pfizer line. That line lost two patients within 2 weeks that I know of. These shots are dangerous. And that got tons, I mean, millions of views and lots, I mean, thousands of comments of I lost my mom, I lost my dad, I lost my brother, I lost my uncle. Just the comments were just come rolling in of people. The skeptics were rolling in too. The bots would roll in and be like, oh, they're safe, they're effective. Correlation isn't causation. I mean, you started hearing all of this same stuff, just like robot, 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 or left winger, left winger, left winger, left winger. But they were doing that while these thousands of comments of my dad died a day after his, my mom died a day after hers. Like all these comments were coming in and they were just flowing through. And TikTok took that video down and they told me it was because terroristic activity. So they called me a terrorist for warning people about what I've seen as a paramedic. And that's whenever I got really pissed off and I started just making video after video after video. I would get banned. I don't even know how many times I've been banned off of TikTok alone. Banned off of YouTube. Uh, Facebook, I can't access my old Facebook, my original Facebook. Um, Elon Musk buying X is the only thing that's allowed me to actually not be not be banned over and over again.
Right.
So
Wow, it's like when you are calling out the actual terrorists, you are being blocked and called as a terrorist, which is this is the kind of times we're living in, and I still cannot believe it. But let's say if you were you so right after the COVID, the vaccines were introduced and people started taking it. You what were the was it mainly heart attacks? Is it, or is there any other things were
strokes,
happening?
strokes, heart attacks, seizures, new onset seizures, weird seizures. Like when I say weird seizures, I would run calls where people were standing up, not moving, and not like shaking, but they were just like completely still, standing upright, holding on to something, almost like they were on drugs. But these people were, whenever they would wake from it, they would, hardly any postictal period, said that they just couldn't control their body. That those were the weird seizures. I don't, but just aortic dissections. I ran more aortic dissections since the COVID shots came out than I ever did in my life.
What's an aortic
Auto,
dissection?
your aorta, large vessel pumps blood. When you have an aortic dissection, typically you're dead. I mean, it's a imagine a really large vessel that's coming up through your body that carries a bunch of blood. When that dissects, whenever let's say it cuts or splits, and it just dumps blood into the body.
Well,
And out in
why
the
would it
field,
dissect? It would just fall apart, sort of
it
break?
would just it would be like well, if someone has a head bleed, like a stroke that causes, like because
Yeah.
you can have an embolism that causes a stroke, or you can have a bleed. Well, the
Yeah.
bleed, the vessel just ruptures.
Yeah.
Well, something causes that massive vessel to rupture, or that and it, yeah, you just, I mean, like I said, we can't even at this point after COVID shots. A lot. I've ran a lot of those. I've seen young, in their 20s having that happen and die and not able to do anything about it. But But before the COVID shots, no, I mean, it was very, very, very rare to run a call like that. Especially, I never ran a call like that on a young kid until the shots came out. And then, other than that, brain tumors. I've seen more brain tumors than I've ever seen in my entire life since the COVID shots came out. Pancreatic cancers, more than I've ever seen in my entire life since the shots came out. Liver failure to just, cancer that's metastasized all throughout the body within months, which we're calling turbo cancer or extremely aggressive cancer. When you say turbo cancer, it pisses a lot of people off, but it acts like turbo. It's just so fast. I mean, they're diagnosed 1 month and then a couple months later they're dead. It's just, so I've seen a lot of things since the COVID shots have come out. It's been extremely depressing.
And what were your colleagues saying? How did they take this?
Um, Now, my colleagues pretty much agree that this is occurring. They just don't want to talk about it. And we'll have the conversation occasionally in meetings. Like I don't know anybody in the meetings that where I work currently that disagree that the shots have caused massive damage, but they don't want to talk about it. They don't feel like they can do anything about it, so they don't want to talk about it. It's like I mean, I liken it to someone who's molested you. Like our government molested all of us. Pharmaceutical companies molested all of us, raped all of us. in many different ways. And people typically don't like to have that conversation.
Yeah. You don't you don't want to I guess admit that you are a victim, or I don't know how to. Yeah, I think it's
I mean, how many rape victims don't report their abuser?
yeah.
Most go unreported. How many spousal abuse cases don't report their spouse for abusing them? Most. Most go unreported. We were abused on that kind of level. When you're talking about murdering people's family members for profit, when you're talking about censoring people like me who are in the medical field, actually getting the blood on us from people that are dying from the shots that they're giving, and they're censoring us and telling us we're terrorists, gaslighting us to that kind of level, that's not only physical abuse, but that's emotional abuse on an extreme, extreme level. Most people do not want to talk about that kind of rape. They just don't.
So and then you wrote a book. By the way, I love the title. Safe and effective for profit. I think it's so to the point. Again, a lot of people, they don't want to think that it's possible that these companies could have done it for profit. It's just how is it possible? All these billionaires, all these corporate. I mean, they have our well-being in mind. How is it possible that they are interested in profit? So I really love the title, and I think it's very eye-opening. And can you talk about that? Like, how did the process work? I'm sure you, when you published, there was still censorship going. How did you even? I mean, I personally was scared to speak up, but how did you make this happen? How did you decide to speak up and write a book?
Mm, anger. I had lots of anger. Sadness, anger. I basically took my journal and just turned it into a book. And then I also had a really good co-author, Stephanie. She's also a publisher. She published it. And initially a senator friend of mine who had got a hold of me. We've been friends for years. He found me on TikTok before I was banned and we started becoming friends. And he said, "You need to write a book."
Hmm.
And I started, writing and just writing every day, posting what I could that wouldn't get deleted. It would get deleted, but I just would copy everything I was posting. And I started turning it into a book. And then my publisher and friend Stephanie, who's also my co-author, helped me put it into book form, and she helped out immensely. She's written a few books, and she just walked me through the process of book writing. Because I'm a paramedic, I'm not typically a writer, but I've learned during this time that not only do I have to be a paramedic, but I have to be a writer. I have to put on different hats because we're in a war. And this has been an information war, but it's been a physical war for all the people that have already died, already been killed by weaponized pharmaceuticals. Um, and that's what it is. Whenever you're censoring people trying to talk and trying to warn, trying to give informed consent, then you are weaponizing medicine. And that's what's happened. Now, did they weaponize it because they wanted to destroy America? I don't know. Have they successfully destroyed America's faith in the pharmaceutical industry? Yes. Have they successfully destroyed generations of young children? Yes. But I don't know if that was their intent. I'm guessing it was profit, because profit's the simple answer, and typically the simple answer is the correct one. But there might be bad people out there from China or wherever else that want America to be weak, and they had their hand in this too. It makes sense.
But it was all over the world. I mean, vaccines were mandated everywhere. I mean, in Germany, I mean, not mandated means forced, right? But like 60-70% in Germany, they're vaccinated. And I know a lot of people who were absolutely not maybe forced legally, but we were forced in emotionally. We were coerced to take the vaccine, because without the vaccine we were not allowed to do anything. Like, I couldn't take my kids to any after school activities. We couldn't go to shops. We couldn't go to work meetings. Everywhere you needed a QR code, and if you didn't have a QR code to scan, you couldn't go anywhere. The only place you could go was like a grocery store, and that's basically it. And parks, thankfully parks were open, so you could
Well,
just go and breathe some fresh air.
well, it's not just It's not just America, it's the American mindset. We value freedom. We value freedom. We value God and freedom. Those two things above all. Well, the American mindset isn't just America where I live. I mean, we're a melting pot of everywhere. Everywhere used to come here to worship how they want to worship and to be free. So what they attacked around the world was the American mindset. The mindset that America was. That's what I was raised to believe that America is the greatest place on earth because we do everything we can to protect freedom and the innocent people in our population and around the world. That's what America was supposed to be. So what they did is they attacked that mindset in everyone. The people that went along with tyranny, that just went along with it, they don't have the American mindset. The people that stood strong, that said, no, I'm not going to let you take my rights, my freedoms. I'm not going to let you poison my body. I believe it's wrong. The ones that stood strong, to me, that's what America is all about. That I don't care what country you're from or where you're at. You have the American mindset. I'm going to be free. I'm not going to bow to tyranny, and I will stand up in the face of corrupt power. So I I believe that it's a mindset, and that we were attacked,
Hmm.
extremely attacked. And they tried that. I mean, the QR code, the digital currency, they're still attacking us. It hasn't stopped. They're trying to take away our freedoms every chance they can. And the closer they get us with digital currency, a digital economy, locking us down will be easier. Taking our money away when we speak against, powerful entities will be more difficult because they'll take our money. They'll freeze our accounts. If we're trapped into a digital currency, a digital economy where we're walking around basically QR code billboards. Me having this conversation with you right now, as soon as we were done or during this conversation, my account will be locked. I won't be able to actually have these types of talks anymore. Well, that's attacking the American mindset. And they haven't stopped. It's not going to stop. We just have to keep talking and hopefully slow it down.
Right. And what do you think about the so I hear a lot about American healthcare system and how it's almost like a scam. What do you think about that? I mean, you work in this industry. How did this end up being what it is right now? Because I remember when I was in the States, I think I just had a bite, like a spider bite. Um, and I was charged $800. And when I saw I didn't know whether I should laugh or cry because it was
I
so
don't know.
ridiculous. I've never had I mean,
Mhm.
I've been in Europe, I've been in Uzbekistan, where I'm from, and nowhere in the world you find something like that. And literally I think it took a few minutes and just one cream. So I got $800 charged for that. And that's when I realized it because people usually hear about American healthcare system, but those who actually been there and unless you're charged that amount, it's difficult to believe that it's possible. But it is like, what happened? Like, what is going on with this healthcare
Oh,
system there?
we're a for-profit healthcare system. I mean, our system, just like our ambulance service. I mean, if I show up on scene, that's not a cheap bill. If I transport you, you're not. It's not a cheap bill at all because the people that own our services are, it's a privately owned services. We run by being paid. So it's just, is it broken in many ways? Yes. Can it be easily fixed? Not with the corruption we have. If we didn't have the massive amounts of corruption and people weren't evil, it could be fixed overnight. But too many people are wanting to live in the biggest mansion, and if you have too many people wanting to live in the biggest mansion, they're going to be selfish, and overcoming selfishness is just very difficult. Sorry you had
Um,
that huge bill, but it
it
is
was
it's
long
it
time
is
ago.
what it's what happens here. A lot of people don't pay their bills. I mean, and that's another big thing is the more people that don't pay their bills, the higher everyone else's cost is going to be in this system. I mean, if you don't pay your
It,
ambulance bill, the ambulance service has to eat that cost in many different ways, and the bills go up for other people.
Yeah, it just literally everything makes no sense because if you compare the prices, right? Everything is similar prices, like for bread, for flour, for services, you have similar prices, salaries, they're, more or less the same range. But then the hospital, like healthcare systems, like completely on a different level. So when you compare all the costs and income and everything together, everything is there. But then when you have like healthcare costs, it's like skyrocketed. So you're like, what is it based on? What is the
I mean,
justification? And then there seems to be
like
no justification.
my fiance works in a big system, and they were looking at hiring a data analyst. They have to hire a data analyst, just a data analyst for their system. And the data analyst that like, so they're going to get a not a permanent one, but someone who's just going to fill the role for a few months until they can hire just one data analyst. And it's going to cost them $30,000 a month for one data analyst to fill the role for 3 months. $30,000 a month is what they're being charged for one data analyst.
Okay.
So, I mean, think about these salaries that are being paid to these people, just in salaries alone. Um, I mean, it's
Is it like a market? Is
so
it market salary? It just I don't know. It seems it's too far gone from
it's really far gone. But but I mean, I personally, I mean, as a paramedic, I've made when I first started in this business, they told me they were like, hey, when I first started as EMT, they were like, if you work your way all the way.
All right, we're back. We had some technical issue, but everything okay
I
now.
think we were talking about that. Basically, we were talking about pay at the time in the last audio that we were video we were on. They told us initially we weren't going to get paid very much. You're in the wrong field if you're doing this to get rich. This
Mm.
isn't a field to get rich in. You go to a lot of school, you drive fast, you're put in dangerous situations, you're trying to help people at their worst moments in life, and you don't do it for the money. Though pay's gotten better over time, but it's still not a paying career field. I think we were talking about how broken the system is, and that goes all the way around. I mean, from teachers to cops to paramedics. I mean, we're not paid what we're worth across the board. The system typically wants you to be, in a field that takes advantage of people so you can make money. That's especially capitalism. And I don't hate capitalism, but that's just the way it is. I mean, you salesmen make more money, people that are, the tops of hospitals make more money, and their whole goal is to make money. It's not really healthcare. It's how do we make more money for our healthcare system. That said, I don't see an easy fix for all that. I'm going to keep doing what I do, and I know people like me are going to keep trying to help people, no matter if it pays little or not. It's just the way the system works.
Yeah, and I was really surprised that the nurses and doctors, I think the nurses, I think they work 12-hour shifts, like 18-hour shifts, and they're almost like paid miserable amount of money. And I thought, but this is really scary situation, like because there's such a responsibility to be a nurse because you have to be in a good state of mind to do the work because you're literally injecting chemicals into human beings and you need to have to be awake, right? And being exhausted, it's
They get paid better here. Nurses get paid fairly decent here. I mean, an average nurse probably makes $35 an hour, but if they've been doing it for a while, they're making $50 to $60 an hour. So they're doing okay here. They do work 12-hour shifts. And if they want to do travel nursing, they get paid even more if they're willing to travel. Um, that said, you're correct. They should be paid a lot. They're doing a whole lot and they're working long hours. 12-hour shifts is typical. Me, I work 48-hour shifts. So like this morning I got off of a 48-hour shift. I've been working for 48 hours straight, and you're talking to me after a 48-hour shift. I get to
you look
sleep
like
whenever.
you look fine. You don't look like
Yeah.
you work for 48 hours.
Yeah. It makes you old, but thank you. But yeah, you sleep when you can, and some shifts you don't get very much sleep. Like this shift in the last 48 hours total, I've had probably 6 hours of sleep. Um, Sometimes it's worse, sometimes it's better. But that's how it is. And we used to not be able to do longer than 48 hours at a time, but I've done 96s, especially since during COVID and after COVID. We've lost so many medics due to either burnout or now they're sick or multiple of my friends are dead. None of them have died from COVID, but a lot of them are dead from self-inflicted reasons, or they've gotten cancer, heart attacks since they've taken the shots. So we're lacking in a lot of paramedics across the board. So we can now they let us work longer hours, which probably isn't safe, but what are you gonna do?
Do you have like a union, like a workers union?
Not for paramedics, sadly. Nurses, that's why they get paid quite a bit more. It's because they've been unionized for they have like the nurses union. They've been doing that for gosh, 100 years now. I'm not sure, a long time. But paramedics, no, we're very new. That's why most people call us ambulance drivers, even though I don't drive an ambulance. Like my EMT drives me everywhere I go. They still call us ambulance drivers because they don't know what we do. I'll show up on scene and a lot of them will be like, just get me to the hospital. And I'm like, no, I've got a whole lot of things I'm going to do. I'm going to assess you. I'm going to treat you. A lot of people just don't know because we started pretty much in the 70s, I think, is whenever my field became, paramedic field. And our protocols and our ability to actually do more is just gained more over time. So, like, whenever I show up on a scene, if someone's dead, I can do pretty much everything an ER can do on scene by myself and with me and my partner. And if fire department's there to help me, I can do all the things that the doctor and nurses are going to do as a team. I'll do it all pretty much by myself on scene, just utilizing my partner as my nurse. And if I can't get you back, I'll call you on scene and won't even transport you to the hospital. So we have a lot in our tool bag to do on scene, and most people don't even know it. So unionizing, that would be great because then we would start getting paid more across the board, but I don't foresee that happening for many more years.
Mm.
It'd be nice though. I would be okay with it. I'd like a $20-$30 an hour pay raise.
Yeah, and also like normal working conditions. I'm surprised, like for example, pilots, they have to have like good sleep. They cannot,
Mhm.
start a flight unless they, had a good amount of sleep or rest time. There are like professions where it's required, and it seems such a common sense to do the same for nurses and doctors and paramedics. And so I'm surprised that it feels, from what I have heard from nurses, that they're being exploited. I mean, okay, if they're,
Oh,
even
yeah.
if they're being paid 35 or 40 dollars an hour, if they're being exploited and being forced to work 12 hours. And I think there's even a video of a lady who came home like after like 15-hour shift, and she was absolutely not comprehending where she was, like a and I thought, wow, this is a scary situation, and why is hospital allowing this to happen? It's just so weird and
We can do
abnormal.
what they call downtime. Like I've done it once in the last year where I was just up so long and my EMT, the one driving me, was up so long that I could just see him sort of veering off the road at times, and I'd have to wake him up.
Oh my god.
So I'll call whenever we get to that point, we'll call for mandatory downtime. They're supposed to give us 4 hours of mandatory sleep time. But when we do that, like there's only so many people working the truck. Like in my system, we have, you know, just I mean, typically we've got, 4 or 5 trucks, sometimes more within the system around us, um, working 24 hours a day all the time. Well, if one of us does mandatory downtime, it just puts the extra load on the other crew. So your friends, the other people that are working just as hard as you. So we don't do it very often because if I say mandatory downtime because I'm too tired, then the other paramedics that are just as tired as me, they have to take my load. So
Yeah.
it's a catch 22. But yeah,
I
they
just
are. It is our system's pretty abusive. Not just my field, but our system
Yeah.
is very abusive, especially to people that are willing to help others.
Yeah, I know that I have here in Berlin families that moved from the States to Berlin, and that's what they say. Like working hours are crazy. It's
Mhm.
impossible to have family. Like you have to work so much, and in a day, I think like so they have to stay until like 7 p.m. or something like that if it's like an office job, and they don't get to take what is like a vacation time also is way more reduced than what we have in Europe, well at least in Germany. And in Germany incomprehensible, like you can't, everything is unionized, a lot of unions everywhere, and people leave around like 4 p.m. and they
Well,
always have their vacation. Like vacation is very important. I think we have like 30 days, we have 30 days a year.
ooh, that's
And
nice.
sick, yeah, and sick leave is, if you're sick, you're sick, like nobody's allowed to call. I remember one of the German companies was acquired by an American company, and we were all offered a contract to move to this new company, and in the contract it stated they were going to give us a bonus at the end of the year. And one of the conditions was if you take more than, I don't know, like 3 or 4 days sick leave, you cannot get this bonus. And
Yeah,
we were shocked.
yeah,
Nobody agreed to that. They were like throwing the
yeah,
contract out because it's such a cultural shock. You cannot add something like that. It's like a
yeah.
human right thing to be sick. And you were like, we were shocked. I was like, knowing that's what happens, I think like a lot of people who worked in European companies, they don't want to go to work in American
Mhm.
companies
I
because
get
it's,
it. And now that's the culture. I mean, we don't like I haven't called out sick to work. I can't even remember the last time I called out sick to, I mean, many years, many years. You don't call out sick because it's looked down upon. And also, in my field, if I call out sick, they have to find another paramedic to cover my shift. And oftentimes they can't find one because we're lacking in staff. Like, I mean, we don't have the extra staff in a lot of places wherever I was working. If I was contract medic, doing contract medic stuff at the time, I was up in the tundra. I was up in the mountains, like with, they would sometimes give me 200 people that were my people to take care of in the middle of the mountains, in the middle of nowhere, hundreds of miles away. We'd have helicopters out front. If someone's sick enough, I have to get the pilot to fly me and my patient to the nearest hospital, which was forever away. There's just typically not calling out sick for me. I'm not, or my field. We're like, I have to be deathly ill to not go to work.
wow, that's harsh. That's wow. Yeah.
It's just it's just get us more paramedics. Get-
I mean, yeah, if you like, if you have like normal working conditions and good salary, I'm sure there are going to be people who are going to want to be working in that area. I think,
yeah,
yeah,
that won't ever
short.
happen. No, there won't ever be normal working conditions and good salary for my field, and I don't foresee that happening ever. Like, it's just not. It's not what. But it's also not why we get into this. We get into this to do the dangerous stuff, to be there to try to help people whenever they're, going through the most crazy moments of their life and try to save them, try to, help in wild situations. So this is the wrong field for anybody if you do not want to be in that kind of atmosphere. If you don't want to be driving 90 miles an hour down the road and need to get a emergency airway, if you're doing chest compressions, all the things, giving drugs, calculating drugs while you're, drivers trying to dodge semis and everything else, this isn't the field for you.
Yeah, I think the whole society stands like relies on people like you, right? Who are not after money, but just do a good thing. And there are so few of you. So, because everybody wants to earn money and everybody's going to be like sales or whatever, where there's more money and less effort and less physical effort as well and mental. So, yeah, the whole society stands on you guys. Okay. What do you think about the White House announcement of like Tylenol connection to autism?
I think is I wrote a paper on it. If you get a second, it's in my timeline. I put it out, but I believe there's a connection. I believe that one sets you the because I mean I just posted something yesterday or this morning actually, and asking people if they were told to give Tylenol to their babies before or after their vaccines. And I mean, it's just so many people were told to give them either give Tylenol before or after vaccines. I believe the evidence is mounting up that Tylenol has something to do with autism, ADHD. neural deficits. I believe that vaccines also have tons of evidence mounting up that it does the same thing. So it feels to me like a 1-2 punch. Like they're throwing something that's toxic inside a baby, and then they're telling the parents to give something that's also toxic to control a fever that the toxic substance going to cause. And I think it's destructive. And if you want to read that paper, I go into more detail just from things that I've looked up and researched. Um, it's worth the read. But yeah, just to put it simply, I believe that it's two toxic substances at the same time at an early age, and I imagine a lot of bad comes from that, and the evidence does seem to be mounting up per the FDA and other people that are finally looking and researching, saying the same thing.
That's interesting because Tylenol, I think, is in Europe and in Uzbekistan is paracetamol,
Mhm.
and paracetamol used to be always like a safe option, like the safest. Like I remember parents giving paracetamol, and paracetamol is offered like here. It's like after vaccination. I never heard before, but like after it's usually given. But I think it's the same ingredient. I don't know how to pronounce it. Amino something. But yeah, so very
I
interesting.
would say
So
anything that you've believed to be safe per the establishment at this point. If I was, especially if you were a parent, I would be doing my own hardcore research on anything. If you hear safe and effective, that should be trigger words for abuse and neglect. Like it should. It is sadly at this point. If I hear safe and effective, I'm automatically going possibly dangerous, probably not effective. Like I'm going to start researching it, and I'm in the medical field. I mean, it sucks because I'm supposed to be able to
trust.
trust the system, and I can't. I can't. Yeah, I can't tell you to trust a system that's lied to us so blatantly for so long. But I can say, hey, you do need to call 911 if you're in an emergency situation because thankfully there are things that I can do to help, and I'm going to get, and people like me at least are going to give you informed consent. If you can have if your cognitive ability is able to give me consent, I'm going to constantly give you informed consent because I want to be honest with you. I want to tell you, hey, you're having an allergic reaction right now. Your airway is swelling up. I want to go ahead and give you this epi. I've seen epi work. I'm going to go ahead and do this. Is that okay? I go, okay. I'll give the epi. They can't talk typically because they're almost going to shut down and breathing. But the epi can still harm you. But if I don't give it to you, you're probably going to die. So it's one of those like situations to where I can at least give you informed consent. In the case of Tylenol and vaccines, we haven't had informed consent this whole time. They haven't been informing people that you can die from vaccines. They haven't been informing people that you can have long-term illnesses from vaccines, not be able to walk from vaccines, have strokes, have heart attacks. They haven't been doing that. They came out and just said it's safe, it's effective. And they've done that and convinced people that the whole time. And so is the case with Tylenol. They've convinced doctors that it is the safest thing to take, and they haven't told people that, hey, there are these studies, from like many years ago saying it causes ADHD and maybe some other things. They don't tell them that. So the doctors are constantly just giving it out like candy. That's that's not informed consent. Not by a long shot.
Yeah. And also what really annoys me is how some parents they say, oh, okay, if you didn't vaccinate your child, you are putting my child in danger. Right?
Yeah.
That's the thing. And that really annoys me because we know how many children are injured and possibly died because of these vaccines. So how about our children? How about like my child?
Yeah, it's
It's
insane.
just such a backward thinking, and I don't get it. How did we
Yeah,
get there?
because people have been dumbed down by a system that's tried to dumb them down. Just trust the science. Trust the science. Don't have faith in God. Trust science. They've done that for so long that they've built a society. They've actually literally built idiocracy. They've been pushing us towards stupidity or ignorance for so long that most people will say stupid things like that. Get your vaccine or you're hurting my child, even though my child is vaccinated. It's the dumbest thing ever. It's like, okay, so your kid's wearing what you think is a bulletproof vest. And if my kid doesn't wear the bulletproof vest, somehow it's going to hurt your kid. It's all so dumb. And people don't look into it because their favorite doctor on TV has told them to do it. Their favorite politician has told them to do it. The politician they hate told them it doesn't work. So now they think it works so much. It's people are just dumb. I mean, uh, people are ignorant and dumb, or ignorant and stupid. Ignorance can be fixed by learning, or at least the willingness to learn. Stupidity is self-inflicted and oftentimes fatal.
Okay. That's yeah. What is going on with the Trump's presidency? I mean, from outside, I mean, we have watched the elections, we have watched how he started his term, and um, all these promises of how Ukraine war in Ukraine is going to end, and I'm sure like maybe other things like how is it going? What are American people thinking right now? And especially with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, like what is this situation there?
It's very sad. It's heartbreaking, and there's a lot around it right now. I mean, you've got people that are looking into every conspiracy they can possibly think of because we've been lied to so much. So they're looking at every little detail. You've got people that are just sad by it all, like me, because we lost such a good human. Um, as far as Trump, I mean, I'm not a Trump fan, but I'm sure good with Trump over the alternatives that we were allowed to choose from. And I like a lot of the things that Trump is doing. I like that he's bringing to the forefront all of this, you know, all of the corruption. He's doing it in a way that it's difficult for me to just jump right on the Trump train because a piece of me is going, just tell them the vaccines are poison already. Like I'm living it daily. Like just yesterday, I had a very young girl that has heart problems after she took the vaccines. Like I'm living this carnage daily, so it's hard for me to watch them slow roll truth. But I understand based on what I'm witnessing, if they don't slow roll truth, like with Tylenol the other day, when they finally said, "Hey, this is dangerous. You shouldn't take it if you're pregnant." Stupid pregnant women just started chugging Tylenol. So I see the obstacles that we're up against, the brainwashing that we're up against, and I'm trying to empathize with why he's playing the long game. But it's difficult for me whenever I'm seeing the destruction firsthand, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So what is how do you see the like near future? How do you see what's going to happen, do you think, in the next few years? Because whatever
We're
happens in the States always has like a triple effect in Europe and everywhere in the world. Like what is going to
we're
happen?
either going to have a mass awakening and people choose to get along, or we'll have a civil war.
That was what I have been hearing actually. I actually know somebody who's like they moved here because they thought that civil war is going to happen.
I mean, you can only boil water so long before it boils over. If you don't, if you don't add something to it, or if you don't release the pressure, if you don't like it, we've got so many people so divided, rightfully so. It's not like, I mean, we divide over the dumbest things too, but we're divided on big issues where I know I'll stand firm on plenty of the issues that I stand firm on. I know they will too. And one side, our side, isn't going out and aiming at their political mouthpieces predominantly. Our side isn't burning cities down. Our side isn't like, I mean, we all get mad, we all get angry, we all lash out verbally. Thank God for, First Amendment. But the other side is they're getting pretty insane. Like they're attacking ICE agents. They're if you upset them even a fraction of what they've done to us, they'll burn a whole city to the ground. So there's only so long we can put up with that atmosphere before finally it turns into a major conflict. It's just what history's shown. Now, I'm hoping and praying that that doesn't occur and something happens that at least brings us together on some common core issues to where it can basically vent off some of the pressure and we can start having conversations without worrying about, getting shot. But if that doesn't happen, then 1 + 1 = 2. It's what happens.
I think there were thought like they. I think I saw somewhere someone wrote that the Charlie Kirk's assassination, that like that was supposed to lead to, that was the point where it was gonna go into civil war, but that doesn't seem like.
I think it'll take a lot more than that. People like me are the people you don't want. The ones, I mean, people like me are predominantly mid to right leaning, and we want to be left alone. We want our kids to be left alone. We want to be able to work, pay our bills, spend time with our children, and not be infringed upon by government or other people. I think and I know they've infringed upon me personally more than I ever thought was going to happen in my lifetime. They've made me not be able to work, still pay my taxes. They have murdered people in front of me so much that I've written a book about it. So I've vented off that frustration verbally through a book, had spaces where I'm angry. I've vented off that frustration. Now, eventually, if they move into where I live and this becomes not like this anymore and they infringe even more on me, that's when it becomes war, conflict. They've done just enough to piss me off and to piss people off like me, but we aren't going to go to your town and just burn it down and risk losing our children, risk losing what we do currently have right now over them pissing us off to this point. You're going to have to really infringe upon us. And if they keep doing what they're doing and escalate and escalate and escalate, then eventually my surroundings will get too squished in and I'll start seeing, oh my gosh, they're truly coming after my children, which I already know they are, but they're here. They're coming in my door. That's when it becomes a war. So I think you're going to have a lot more than that. I know you're going to have a lot more than that to rally the troops per se,
Mm.
which is good and bad. I mean, it's too bad that we aren't capable of getting together and showing a, peaceful force. But we tried that. I mean, our people tried that on January 6th, and the feds got involved. They pretty much framed a whole lot of people, and our side went to jail. And one of our, unarmed ladies who was a veteran got shot and killed. So we're aware that the system, if we do anything showing how strong we are, they'll shoot us and kill us, and they won't get in trouble for it at all. Like Ashley Babbitt's killer is, I mean, I think he even probably got an award for killing an unarmed white woman.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Like watching it from, I mean, I'm sure like we have our own problems here in Europe and Asia as well, but yeah, it's just you don't really expect that to happen. Like it's, like democratic country, but then the whole word democracy became some kind of like a funny thing now because nobody believes it. Nobody believes it exists. So it's a shame. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. I
Yeah,
really enjoyed talking to you. So much useful information, and there were so many things that I learned. Yeah, thank you for everything you're doing. And I'll
no
put up
worries.
all the links to your books. I think your book is like a must read, like what happened during the pandemic, especially first hand from a paramedic. I think it's very important. And I don't want this topic to go away. I want people to keep going back and remembering what happened during the pandemic and not forget what happened, because if we forget, then it's going to happen again. They're going to do it to us again. We should not forget, and we should keep talking about it and find, I mean, if possible, like get our governments to pursue all these people who, made us suffer during the pandemic and hold them accountable. um
Amen.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I pray that y'all have a safe future ahead and stand up for what's right. And if you need anything from me, holler, and you can find me over on X. Everywhere else has banned me. So it's nice talking to you.